We're watching NHL Now. This year, the National Hockey League is honoring some creators of the week. And in week one, it is artist Dan Pietens. As you can see, some of his work here, courtesy of his Instagram. I love seeing that sped up process as well. It's a very cool thing that you can do, especially when it comes to art, because it takes a lot longer to create than what we're seeing in this video here, I would think. But we're super excited to welcome on this week's creator of the week, Dan Pietens. Dan, thank you for joining the show. We appreciate the time. Your work looks spectacular. We're going to look at some of it here in a second. But first off, just being recognized by the NHL, what does that mean to you?
I mean, what can you say, right? This is such a dream come true. As an artist, all you want to do is share your art with people. And most artists get the opportunity to share it with a few people, but on this kind of a scale, I mean, it's absolutely unreal. I owe you guys so much. So thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's great having you. Very talented. You know, I noticed your hat there. Maybe you could do me a drawing of the U.S. World Junior Championships. Oh, we're taking a shot. You know, I love you, man. Thank you for coming out here.
It hurts.
We don't get.
It still hurts.
We don't get it too much, or we get to brag about that. So we'll brag about it now. But no, listen. People always ask athletes, when did you know that you had a chance to make it in the big time? Like, when did you know you were ridiculous in your arts? I mean, is there a point where you're just like, wow, I'm going to do this. I think I can be great.
Well, I mean, I've always loved art. I've always loved drawing. But when this whole pandemic happened, I had a little bit more time, obviously. And as time went on, more and more people were catching on. But it wasn't until I drew a Peter Forsberg picture, which is actually the one right behind me, and it caught the eyes of some notable organizations, such as the NHL itself. That's when I knew that, okay, maybe there's something special here, or at least it's something that people want to see. So that's when I started kind of going on a roll of doing more and more NHL portraits. And now I feel like, I am at the point where, all right, maybe this art is worthwhile for a grander scale.
Yeah, I love the one we're showing right now with Mitch Marner and just the boards reflected in the visor. I mean, that is, I don't even know how you can do that. So congratulations. I mean, that's something special in itself. Let me ask you about your background when it comes to hockey. I mean, Mike was joking, you got the Team Canada hockey hat on there. Like, what's your background? Where are you from? And who are the teams that you really rooted for growing up?
Right. So it's funny, I'm such a huge hockey fan, but I never really had the opportunity to play hockey. My parents, they just weren't prepared to be hockey parents, and I don't blame them at all for that. It's a huge time commitment, obviously. But that didn't stop me from watching hockey. That didn't stop me from watching the NHL. My dad and I, we would always sit around and we'd watch the Leafs, we'd watch the Avalanche. I became a huge Patrick Roy fan. So as time went on, just my love for hockey grew, despite not being able to play. But to this day, I continue to support the Colorado Avalanche. You'll see that's what I've drawn the most in terms of teams, but I still want to see the Leafs win a cup.
Yes, my guy. I love that.
Good luck with that.
EJ, we can't spend the whole segment chirping the guy.
That's
Team
true.
Canada, now the Leafs.
Fair point.
I'll ask you this. You talk about being an Avs fan, drawing Roy. When you're going to draw a portrait of one of these players, how do you decide which picture you want to draw or how you want to draw them?
Right. And a lot of people ask me, how do you draw so well? And my number one thing is always make sure you're drawing what you're passionate about. Draw what you want to draw. So when it comes to deciding an athlete to draw, I really want to make sure that it's an athlete that I really admire. So every single athlete I've drawn, obviously I have a huge respect for, and they have a place in my own hockey heart. But I also listen to a lot of other people. A lot of people get some joy looking at my art, which means the world. So if I get a lot of requests for an athlete, then definitely I'm going to make sure that I make them a priority.
So we just looked at, let's just say even the Connor McDavid one, or, there was the Henrik Lundqvist, I believe it was the Stadium Series one.
Yeah.
How long is that? What's that process? What's it look like for you to get one of these projects done?
Skaters are typically about 17 to 21 hours. Connor McDavid was 21. Mitch Marner is a little bit of an exception to that. He took 32, and that's my longest one yet, whereas goalies are usually around the 30-hour mark.
Wow.
So how many sittings then is that? I assume you don't sit for 30 hours straight. How do you space it out?
It's funny, because I'm also a registered physiotherapist, moving more towards art. At this time, I'm just having a lot more love for it. But typically, I could probably sit now for 2 hours at a time, get up, do a workout, come back. So I might be doing upwards of 10 to even 15 sittings, depending.
I want to ask you about the detail. There's Steve Yzerman. I mean, look at I'm just amazed by the detail in your work. Just the screws in the helmet.
The sweat.
I mean, the whole thing on the Lundqvist piece, as Mike pointed out, there's that Stadium Series logo on there. Like, how important is the detail to you in your work? Because it seems like it's very important.
So first of all, I'm so happy that you noticed the Stadium Series logo, because it's funny when I draw these details in these photos, oftentimes I'm like, nobody's ever going to notice this stuff. And a lot of people don't,
Yeah.
But all it takes is a couple of comments for people to say, oh my goodness, look at that screw, look at that logo, look at that subtle, texture in the jersey. And to me, though the details don't pop out all the time, they make the drawings. And I have, this might be a surprise, I have a little bit of perfectionism in me. So when I'm drawing, I can't resist it. It's so easy for me to, ignore the detail on a screw and just be really kind of not annoyed by it, but it nags at me to know that it's not 100%.
Well, that perfectionism looks great because everything does look absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But I just don't know enough about the arts to know you're doing pencils here. And when you see some people do different kind of art, is there any other things you dabble with as far as
tools?
What the tools of the trade, the product? Like sometimes there's chalk things, and then there's different kinds of paint,
Oil painting.
oil painting.
like
Thank
that,
you.
yeah.
My goodness.
Well, I mean, I have used colored pencils, markers, digital art. I've done all that, but I come back to pencil time and time again. I feel like it's very nostalgic to me. I've drawn from a young age. I was drawing, goalies when I was 5 years old. But I feel like it's also relatable to a lot of people. I feel like we've all picked up a pencil at some point and at least attempted to draw something. So I think that it's relatable to the audience, but also at the same time, it is nostalgic and it is classy, because when you're younger, you have posters of these athletes on your wall, and then you grow up and maybe some people don't want to have that in their house, but something like this kind of art that has a place in many people's homes, even living rooms, to be on display. So I love pencil.
Well, listen, congratulations on all your success. I think this is a really cool thing that the league is doing to showcase some really fine talent, which you obviously are. I know you said you got to be passionate about the subject to draw them, so I assume you're never going to draw each.
No,
you got to be passionate.
No.
But
I don't know why there was a need for that shot, but I'm okay with it.
Listen, I had to get you back for the Leafs.
Go Leafs, go. Go Leafs, go.
Listen, Dan, we appreciate the time. Thank you, and all the best.
Absolute honor. Thank you so much for your time.